The diamond-encrusted watch on Rachel's wrist caught the chandelier light as she raised her hand to silence the table. "As for accommodation arrangements," she said, her voice carrying that particular tone of false consideration I'd grown to recognize, "we should discuss who's staying where." Her gaze swept around the Blackwood dining room before landing on me like a predator selecting its weakest target. "Aria, sweetheart," she continued, "the villas at Eclipse Cove are quite particular about their clientele." She adjusted her emerald necklace, the one that cost more than my parents' house. "Perhaps it would be better if you supported Nathan from home during this family celebration." The sterling silver fork I'd been holding clattered against fine china. 23 family members froze mid-conversation, their expressions ranging from embarrassment to poorly concealed amusement. The meticulously printed villa floor plans, with my name conspicuously absent from all sleeping arrangements, lay spread across the mahogany table like evidence at a crime scene. "My name is Aria. I'm 31 and a former art teacher with a hidden truth. This is the story of how I turned a cruel exclusion into the most enlightening week of my mother-in-law's privileged life." "Mother." Nathan's voice cut through the silence, his fingers finding mine beneath the table. "If Aria isn't welcome, then I'm not going either." Rachel's carefully Botoxed forehead attempted a frown. "Don't be ridiculous. This is your grandfather's 80th birthday celebration. The entire family will be there." She sipped her wine, the diamond tennis bracelet sliding down her wrist. "You can't miss it simply because your wife isn't accustomed to such settings." "She's right, Nathan," his sister Fiona interjected, leaning forward with practiced sympathy. "Remember the Harrington Charity Gala? Aria looked so uncomfortable all evening." What Fiona conveniently omitted was how she'd orchestrated that discomfort, introducing me exclusively as Nathan's wife, the public school teacher, and interrupting every conversation I started with potential connections in the art world. "It's okay," I said quietly to Nathan, squeezing his hand under the table while meeting Rachel's eyes. "You should celebrate with your family." The triumph that flickered across Rachel's face made my chest tighten. 3 years of marriage to her son, and she still viewed me as the inappropriate schoolteacher he'd somehow been tricked into marrying. When I met Nathan at the Community Arts Center where I taught children's classes, he wasn't like the other Blackwood heirs, genuinely kind and interested in people beyond their net worth. Our connection was immediate and authentic. But I hadn't anticipated the full force of Rachel Blackwood's disapproval. Rachel wasn't merely wealthy, she was fourth-generation money, the kind that considered even millionaires to be nouveau riche. From our first meeting, she made it abundantly clear that an art teacher from a middle-class background had no place in the Blackwood dynasty. "Nathan, darling," she would say with me standing right there, "have you heard Charlotte Vandermeer is back from London? Still single, I believe." 3 years of this, subtle digs at family gatherings, exclusions from important events, constant reminders of my supposed inadequacy. What Rachel couldn't possibly know was that while I taught children to express themselves through art, my own creative expression had taken a different form. My digital animations, published under a pseudonym, had become global sensations, earning me a fortune that rivaled the Blackwood inheritance. Only Nathan knew the truth, respecting my desire to keep my success private and separate from his family's influence. As dinner concluded, Rachel detailed the Eclipse Cove arrangements for the 5th time. "The staff-to-guest ratio is 3-to-1. We'll have exclusive access to the entire northern peninsula," she repeated, pointedly looking away from me. I smiled politely, sipping water from a crystal glass worth more than my first car. But my mind wasn't on the exclusion, it was calculating exactly how to execute what I'd been planning for months. The evening Nathan's grandfather had announced his birthday celebration at Eclipse Cove, I had made a few inquiries. The exclusive resort had been struggling financially after a series of management issues. Through a private investment group, one of several I'd established with my animation earnings, I had quietly acquired controlling interest in Eclipse Cove Resort 6 months ago. As we drove home that night, I checked my phone for the confirmation email I'd been waiting for. It arrived just as Nathan turned onto our street. "Transfer complete. All paperwork finalized. You now have majority ownership of Eclipse Cove Holdings." "You're quiet," Nathan observed as we entered our modest home. The one Rachel constantly hinted was beneath a Blackwood. Just thinking, I replied, unable to suppress a small smile. I'm so sorry about my mother, he sighed. I'll tell her tomorrow that we are both staying home. I took his hands in mine. Actually, I think you should go. His eyebrows shot up. Without you? No way. Trust me, I said, feeling the pieces of my plan locking into place. I think it's time your mother learned that appearances can be deceiving. The next morning, as the Blackwoods boarded their private jet to the Caribbean, I made a call to Eclipse Cove's management team. The resort's new director, Sophia, had been briefed weeks ago about the possibility of this exact scenario. They've just departed, I told her. It's time to implement our special hospitality program. While their plane crossed the Atlantic, I finalized the details from my home office, where multiple screens displayed the resort's security feeds, an upgrade I'd personally ordered during the acquisition. The Blackwood entourage arrived at Eclipse Cove that evening in a fleet of luxury vehicles. I watched through the cameras as Rachel led the procession across the immaculate grounds toward the grand reception area, already dictating instructions to the staff she assumed would cater to her every whim. Welcome to Eclipse Cove. Sophia greeted them with the professional smile I'd coached her on. We've been expecting the Blackwood party. Rachel beamed. Everything looks exquisite. I assume the grand villa is prepared for me. About that, Sophia replied, consulting her tablet with practiced concern. There's been a slight modification to your arrangements. The owner is currently using the grand villa. Rachel's perfectly maintained composure faltered. That's impossible. I specifically reserved the entire northern peninsula. No other guests are supposed to be here. The owner isn't a guest, Mrs. Blackwood, Sophia explained patiently. They have final authority over all accommodations. Well, who is this owner? I demand to speak with them immediately. Rachel's voice rose, causing other family members to gather around. Sophia smiled politely. Of course. If you'll all follow me to the main pavilion, the owner has left specific instructions regarding your arrival. The family was led to an elegant open-air structure overlooking the turquoise waters. On a large screen, a video began to play. My face appeared, and through the security feed, I watched Rachel physically recoil. Hello, Blackwood family, my recorded self said pleasantly. Welcome to my resort. Yes, you heard correctly. I own controlling interest in Eclipse Cove along with several other luxury properties across 3 continents. Rachel's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor. Nathan suppressed a smile, having been let in on the truth just before boarding. I had called him aside at the airport and finally revealed the full extent of my success and my ownership of the resort. You see, I continued on screen, while you were busy judging me for teaching art to children and assuming I couldn't possibly belong in your world, I was building something of my own. That teacher you left behind? My digital animation studio generates more annual revenue than the entire Blackwood Trust. Rachel gripped the back of a chair for support. Fiona's smile had completely evaporated. Now, about your accommodations, I continued. Rachel, you'll be staying in our staff quarters. They're quite basic by your standards, but as you've often pointed out, some people need to recognize their proper place. This is outrageous. Rachel's voice cracked. I paid for the grand villa. Your deposit has been fully refunded, Sophia informed her smoothly. My recorded message continued. Oh, and Rachel? You once mentioned that service positions would be more appropriate for someone of my background. Let's test that theory. You'll be working as the villa attendant for the rest of the family during your stay. Consider it an educational opportunity about judging people based on their occupations. Rachel's face contorted with indignation. I absolutely will not. Do you have any idea who I am? Yes, Sophia replied calmly. You're the mother-in-law of our majority owner, who has left explicit instructions. If you don't wish to comply, you're welcome to leave, though the next available flight isn't for 3 days. What followed was chaos. Rachel threatened lawsuits, demanded immediate transportation off the island, mysteriously unavailable, and tried to use her considerable influence to override my instructions, ineffective with staff who now reported to me. For the next 7 days, Rachel Blackwood, queen of the social hierarchy, made beds, delivered towels, and served drinks to her own family members. The name tag on her standard-issue uniform read Rachel B., Villa Attendant. But this isn't just about revenge. On the final day, I arrived at Eclipse Cove, timing my private flight to coincide with their departure. Rachel was restocking the pool towel station, her designer highlights grown out, her manicure chipped from actual work. "How's the job treating you?" I asked, approaching her directly for the first time since the video reveal. She stared at me, her anger seemingly replaced by something more complex. "Why did you do all this?" she asked finally. "Because you needed to learn that worth isn't determined by inheritance or social standing," I replied. "Every person who has ever served you a drink, prepared your meal, or cleaned your room is a complete human being deserving of basic respect." Tears formed in her eyes. I never thought about it that way." "I know," I said softly. "That was the problem." From that day forward, Rachel Blackwood was a different woman. The experience of walking in someone else's shoes fundamentally shifted her perspective. She established a foundation providing educational grants to service industry workers and their children. And yes, she finally learned to see people beyond their occupations or backgrounds. Today, our family gatherings have a different energy. Rachel asks the catering staff about their aspirations and remembers details about their lives. Last Thanksgiving, she insisted on serving the meal herself, telling everyone it helps her maintain perspective. Eclipse Cove still operates under my ownership, but now includes a unique program where privileged individuals can experience working in service positions. Rachel helps design the curriculum, sharing her transformation as a case study in empathy and respect. Nathan and I still visit the Community Arts Center where we met. Sometimes Rachel joins us, engaging thoughtfully with the children and teachers she once would have dismissed. She's learned that character isn't revealed by how you treat your peers, it's demonstrated by how you treat those you once considered beneath you. Last month, she gave me a handcrafted book filled with photographs from that transformative week at Eclipse Cove. On the final page, she'd written, "Thank you for showing me that the most valuable perspective comes from stepping down from one's pedestal." I keep that book in my studio as a reminder that sometimes the most powerful luxury isn't access to exclusive experiences, it's the capacity to recognize the fundamental dignity in every person you encounter. And Rachel? She still works one shift monthly at Eclipse Cove. She says it keeps her honest.